Please come to order. March 2nd, 2026. Please read the
Here. Battle. Anderson.
Here.
Avedisian.
Here.
Pisano. Buell. Bush.
Here.
Curry. Here. Desai.
Here.
Drake.
Here.
Gale. Gardeau.
Here.
Gentile.
Here.
Healy. Hoffman.
Here.
Cohen.
Here.
Holloway.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
LaChance. Lester. Here. Lewis. Magnan. Mandyke.
Here.
Maniscalco. Kane.
Here.
Patel. Potowski.
Here.
Salemi.
Here.
Stuber.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Torres.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Carrier. We have a quorum.
Stand for the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4, approval of the meeting minutes of September 6, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Seconded. Are there any additions or deletions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Aye. Opposed? 5, public comment relative to agenda items. 6, announcements regarding annual Independent Consumer Advocate meeting on October 11, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. at District Headquarters, 555 Main Street, Hartford. Joe Sherrick. Joe?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, members of the public, commissioners, staff, Attorney Joseph Sherrico, Independent Consumer Advocate. I just want to add, this is, to my knowledge, the first time that the forum will be held at the district headquarters as opposed to the training center. So looking forward to hopefully good turnout. And as a reminder, you know, not only are commissioners, staff welcome to attend, but of course any members of the public. And if anyone has items that they would like to discuss and they want to give me some kind of advance notice, feel free to email me, mdcconsumeradvocate@gmail.com. And it will also be, you know, on video via WebEx. So looking forward to it. Thanks.
Item 7, report from the district chairman. Report 8, report from chief executive officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to try and be quick, because we're going to get out early. I'm just going to summarize some correspondence I've sent to the commissioners. I'm not going to go into detail. You've already seen them, so I just want to remind everybody that I sent out an email on the 22nd talking about all the things we're trying to do with our procurement, with our North Hartford projects, and our 30% goal of Hartford-based residents. We understand that if we can't meet that goal with Hartford residents, we will look outside of Hartford to make sure that we will comply with the spirit of that concern. We're very successful so far. However, yes, a lot of the jobs that we're getting with our contractors is flagging, but it's a start for introducing Hartford residents into the workforce at the MDC with our contractors. We are struggling with, and that my email mentions and talks about, struggling to get Hartford-based contractors to do the what we call house connection projects, which are from sewer main to the home. hard to get people qualified to do that work, and even rebid the work at a request of one of our contractors. Number two is I also sent out an email. Friday seems to be my day. I can get the emails. Friday the 29th, talking about the. I know some of the questions that was posed by the commissioners Torres and Holloway and the public. You know, what short-term, long-term things can we do to mitigate street flooding? One of the things I was waiting for and did receive and sent out was a CDM interim report for the drainage study for the Blue Hills, Granby areas. Now remember, Blue Hills, Granby areas is all going to get separated, but because we need to understand how to size the pipes and where the pipes need to go, and then once we understand how that infrastructure is going to look on every street, we then need to have an outfall location into the North Branch of the Park River. And we've got two issues in the North Branch of the Park River. It's existing capacity and the need for dredging. And all those details will be finalized once we get into the final study. Then we can determine, you know, we don't even know, good question from commissioners, we don't know if the river's ever been dredged in its history. We don't know the city of Hartford, the state of Connecticut, the MDC, who, if anybody, was involved in that process. We're going to be working through that process with during the study to determine what is necessary. I've said this before, it's really important. We do not want to have to build a pump station to force the water into the river. When we separate this water from the Clean Water Project drainage areas in North Hartford, we don't want to pump it in. There's other issues outside of our separation areas that are localized flooding in the Weaver area, Weaver High School, from the stream coming from Bloomfield. There's lots of localized flooding issues that have nothing to do with MDC's system. So we're trying to solve all these problems together as part of the drainage study. This communication that I'm about to talk about, and I think we have slides for it, Julie. I don't know what the order is, but this is like probably, remember I mentioned this before, we were planning on doing $47 million in this area of Hartford over 10 years, and now we're going to do 180. So we're running, chewing gum at the same time, trying to achieve our goal. We are achieving our goal. We did start work, but you might have seen this press release out on Friday. Nick sent out, and this topic is as you remember, we've never, DEEP and EPA have never allowed the funding of private property work. It's always been big tunnels, you know, separating the street, but they never funded the separation and the provision of providing relining laterals, replacing laterals. As you know, the board approved in an ordinance that all laterals will be free. So now we have committed to DEEP and that we believe removing stormwater from its location where it's entering the system, which is the home, which is the street, let's remove the stormwater rather than collect it at the river. So we have committed as part of this pilot, and DEEP has agreed, they'll give us 50% grant for all that private property work, which is $7 million. And as long as we can achieve 30% reduction in I&I, we call I&I inflow and infiltration. Inflow is somebody pumping stormwater from their basement, and infiltration is just a leaky pipe. So our goal is to remove 30%. Under the original consent orders, it was 10%. So we're saying, listen, we did pilots in Weathersfield and West Hartford. We know we can get to 30% by doing this lateral work. So they agreed. They gave us the grant money, and the goal is, if we can achieve that, they will consider that pilot for other areas within Hartford and our other 7 towns, which means a lot of grant money that we were going to have to pay for ourselves. And we've allowed this program to afford the ability to pay for everybody's lateral for free. So this communication is important. Press release, and the next one, Julie, or somebody. This is really a flyer, not a door knocker flyer. Our outreach teams, Crane Moody and Janet Fleming, and our own staff, we go out and we're trying to make sure that everybody understands how important it is. Our contract is out there ready to go. They're going to start in the Tower Avenue area on August 8th. And we need 100% participation. We don't need 50, we don't need 60, we need 100 in order to get to that 30% I&I removal. So we need the homeowners to understand that we have a free lateral program, but this program is a little different because the contractor is there today, knocking on your door, and they're ready to go. And there's not, lining contractors aren't like a dime a dozen. It's not like there's a lot of people that do this work. So when we're there on your street, we want to get 100% participation, and we want to be able to line every lateral, because if we have to come back, one thing that Corinne Moody and Janet Fleming and even Jeff King had said is the one biggest complaint in 2008 to 2013 with all the separation work in Hartford was my lawn was a mess for 3 years. And so what we're trying to focus on this flyer is this is a non-invasive. We're lining from the street. We're not digging up your lawn. But if we don't get this done with this contractor today, and we have to come back at some later date, most likely the option would be to dig up your lawn and replace your lateral. So we're trying to avoid that. We want to keep our contractor going. We don't want our contractor to say, okay, I'm leaving this street and I'll come back later, because they're not going to do it under contract. So we've identified the streets. The most important part of this communication is that everybody's got to understand that this is a free. If you have to replace your lateral by yourself, as we said before, it's about up to $10,000. That's what that's what the NBC ordinance says. You're saving $10,000. The contractor's here, ready to go. We need everybody to push this narrative and make sure that the community understands it's free and it's good for their home. Also, we've got Jamie and Jeff King are working out. We've talked a lot about looking for other avenues for education and looking for. I don't know if did we can this out?
We can't.
Oh,
we can't print
we can.
it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got this like literally 15 minutes ago. But this is a program that we've been talking about. Jeff Cathcart with the Prince Tech and the other technical high schools, finding a way to develop a program. I know Commissioner Torres, we talked a lot about being creative. How do we be creative and find a way to increase the capacity of not just young people that want to work for the MDC, but also want to work for contractors for the MDC. And this is a program that we're looking to, almost like an internship. Last year, we actually had a young man, minority black male from West Hartford, who was in our Learn to Earn program, and he was very interested in becoming a water treatment operator. We had him working all throughout the year, 1 day a week kind of thing, and then he decided to go to college. So this is that kind of program where we could try and develop a program we're looking for kids that are in the technical schools that are already in an apprentice program or in the program with the unions relative to DOT's program that are interested in an apprenticeship type program on skilled labor. So you'll get a copy of that. And then I do apologize, but Commissioners Torres and Holloway, I promised you I'd have the letter tonight. I got the letter tonight. I received a letter dated July 19th from the commissioners I just mentioned, and I finally completed it. It is, as usual, 23 pages long. There are a bunch of graphs. I was, again, waiting for the interim drainage study from CDM is part of my excuse why I'm late in getting that to you. But it is on open text. You have a hard copy, and it was emailed. So if there's any questions or concerns, Commissioner Torres and Commissioner Holloway, please let me know, and I'll address those. Then we have number 6, which was, this is really, really important. Both the Water Bureau and the Board of Finance have been involved in this. We are planning to talk extensively about the invitation to the towns regarding the water master plan, the rural water master plan. As much as $600 million worth of work, at least $311 million over the course of the next 20 years. So this is a very, very important. It's not a want. It's a need. The infrastructure at West Hartford Filter is over 100 and some odd years old, and we need to start thinking about this. We've presented. I've asked Bob Barron. We presented this to the Water Bureau and the Board of Finance, and we're looking to establish a rate stabilization fund that would be similar to the Clean Water Project, which would help us utilize funds that we excess revenues on the water side that we could put into this rate stabilization fund. Commissioner Slummy did write a letter to our towns on September 27th. I hope everybody got a copy of it. It's a great letter that kind of summarizes where we are today. Lisa Remsen, who's our manager of finance, manager of budget, 33 years, just retired last week. And it's a great send off for her because we are presenting a second year in a row 0% increase in ad valorem and 0% increase in the water rate. We will be talking about developing that rate stabilization fund with excess revenues from this year for the water rate, about 11 cents or about $2 million. So that's a lot. That's a big discussion. We got to get our towns involved, and we'll be talking about that really throughout all of 2024. And then that's it. One more, very important. The simplest things are very important. So I had a meeting with Janice Castle from the City of Hartford, and we're talking about a lot of things. And one thing that we're going to be doing is we call house assessment. So we go into a home, and we're determining, if you're either a backwater valve candidate, here's what we need to do for a backwater valve. A backwater valve program is voluntary, right? So if you are not part of these project areas and you want a backwater valve, you can choose not to get it. In some cases, we have to destroy or rip up your basement, and it's on a backwater valve program because voluntary. Some people choose not to do it, and we do what we can do: sump pump, not a sump pump, upflow toilets. There's a lot of things we can do to protect the home the best we can without destroying the home. On the Clean Water Project, any of these homes along this North Hartford area, we need to get 30% I&I removal. That's a requirement. So the backwater valve program is not voluntary. It's mandatory. We have to do it. And therefore, we can't ask homeowners to allow us to come into their basement and rip up their basement and then say, we're going to leave you with a ripped up basement. So we have to replace in kind what that basement looks like. As part of that assessment, we want to make sure that not only the sewer pipe going to the home is in good shape. We don't want to put in a backwater valve and a sump pump and then your lateral's collapsing. We want to make sure it's in good shape, so we TV the lateral as well. Same thing with the gutter. If we're relying on the gutter system on your home to be operational so that you don't flood yourself, the gutter's full of leaves, right? I mean, it's a simple thing. So Janet Castle said, if you want to give anybody something, give them something they really can use, which is leaf bags. So every homeowner is going to get Home Depot special, 5 bags, and the intent of this is that you need to check your gutters, you need to clean your gutters, and this is what it's for. And every gutter leaf that comes out of that gutter, it's going to protect the home, and it's going to protect that from clogging a catch basin in front of their street. So that's the goal, and we'll continue this. We are going to be supporting a ice cream truck around Halloween in the project areas as part of our outreach for our project site areas between 3 and 5 o'clock on Halloween. Want to stay in the daylight so that we don't, it's safe. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, John. Thank you, Chairman. Scott, just two quick questions. Yes. Number one, I had a chance to read over this CBM real quick while there. On the North Branch Park River, obviously there is a lot of wood, a lot of down trees that are causing an issue. Has and if you don't know, maybe the commissioners from the Hartford know, has anything been done to clean this up? And my understanding is there's been some work done, something like somewhere around 100,000. Not necessarily in this area right here, would be true. Okay.
Yes, so the report mentions that, and it's areas surrounding really the Scarborough area. The goal is to do exactly what was happened there. As you can imagine, down trees just act like a dam, and they back up the water, and the water level rises, and then the homes that are adjacent to that flood zone, that floodplain of the river itself. Again, this is independent of MDC sewer system. This is just the river flooding. My alma mater, University of Hartford, I mean, years ago, all the cars in the parking lot were flooded, right? If everybody remembers that back in 15 years ago, whatever it was. So that is just exactly what we're talking about. The simple things of removing those trees, it's got to be done anyways. So one of the questions in the letter that I answered was short-term solutions. That's a short-term solution. The trees have got to be removed anyways. I'm talking about trees that are down. There might be some issues on the banks, but removing the trees that are already down is a simple, easy way to solve some interim flooding issues.
And just the second question, your staff done a wonderful job right before a major rainstorm, going out and taking anywhere from 35 to 40 pictures of drains that have not been cleaned. Is this a group at all? Or it doesn't look like it to me, but, you know, I'm just looking at pictures, so it just seems that there's a lot of stuff that needs to be cleaned that's not happening, and I don't know. I'm assuming Hartford is responsible. We're responsible.
Yeah, so you know, we've talked a lot about this, and the thing that I can tell you is, and I say this in my report, you know, cleaning the streets does help. It's not the solution, but it mitigates the impacts, right? And I simply look at facts. The facts are, in August 19th of 2021, we had a 240-year rainstorm, and we had 3 feet of water in Albany Avenue. Okay, and we went through hell and back with the city of Hartford regarding cleaning the streets. The streets in Albany Avenue are relatively clean now. The city's doing a great job there. In all of this year, except for the church on Albany and Woodland, thank you, Commissioner, we didn't have the same street flooding, and it was because the streets are able to drain. It takes a while, but the storms that we had this year were 150-year storms. They weren't a 244-year storm, but they were 150-year storms, and so it does help. And our goal is to make sure that we don't want to have, unfortunately, MDC is protecting us up. We don't want to be having street flooding and then say, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it the garbage, or was it the leaves, or was it the MDC sewer system? You can't really determine the size and capacity of the MDC system and how it's operating without making sure that your baseline is streets got to be clean. And then you can determine how much capacity does the existing system have. Now, Albany Avenue, with a 150-year storm on July 4th of 2023, we had no street flooding. So, that's my point.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through you, Scott. There is a event at Unity Plaza for trunk or treat, and over the years, it's been going on about 7, 8 years now. That's a large gathering of citizens and people from the neighborhood. Might be number one place to do the ice cream. Number two, to get information out about what's going on as far as in that area. So I can talk to you offline.
Yeah, perfect. We're happy to do that. No, happy to do that. We have identified a company that has 5 trucks, and we've asked for 2, but we'll definitely talk to you about that. It's a cheap way of really showing the community that we care, and we're just trying to be good stewards, and so it's a simple thing, but we're happy to talk to you about that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure he's going to eat some after.
I did not name
Any further questions? One question.
Yes, I have a question. My name is Alma Elder, and I'm just an observer at this district council meeting, which I find very interesting. Could we request that the speakers identify themselves by name and position? It's very hard to know who is talking at what time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So noted. Question. The streets, when we do the laterals, we'll be coming into the street, the sewer and the street. One of the problems we've always had, no matter what we're doing in areas, is the street. We patch the street. It causes a major problem in the street going forward because of the way patching gets done. And it's always one of the complaints that I hear from people. How are we going to handle that?
Yeah, so there's a couple issues there. If it's a main city artery, which includes access to hospitals, state roads, Albany Avenue, for example, we have been, I've mentioned this at numerous DPW meetings, the standard for the city of Hartford, for a lot of good reasons, was always using a concrete road base. And one of the problems with the concrete road base is that it hides problems in the road. So, and it's intended to hide problems. The concrete road base is intended. You've got clay. Clay is not a good structural fill for a road, so that's why you use concrete road base. And it basically acts as a bridge over a very poor soil. But the problem with it is when you start to see deterioration of either a sewer system or a water system, like what happened on Homestead Avenue, it cost us almost $1 million to replace 40 some odd feet of sewer pipe. And it bridges the road. You wind up with a huge void, 40 feet by 20 some odd feet, and it's deadly dangerous, especially for a school bus to drive over. So we finally have an agreement with the engineering department, I think last year, where they agreed to allow us to use 9 inches of asphalt. So basically 6 and 3, 6 class 2, 3 class 3-inch class 1, or vice versa. And so that's been very helpful. We've also there's much better products out there, Mr. Chairman, for temporary patching materials. We're using a much better quality patch. But as you're right, it's been an issue for a long time. But I don't believe that we're having those kinds of issues that we've had in the past.
We're still penetrating the 5, isn't it 5 feet?
No. It's usually like a 10-inch. No, it's usually like a 10-inch concrete. But not every street has concrete. You would have a street like Sigourney that has concrete because you're using that road. A lot of the hospitals, the ambulances use certain roads to get to and from. But we did this pilot back in 2000. It was either 10 or 11. And we actually, the intersections in Albany Avenue, State Road, the DOT allowed us to do it. And those intersections we've used as the example to the city as proof that this what we're proposing is better than the concrete. The city has accepted that in the last year or so, and we're utilizing that everywhere.
I guess I'm talking about the uniform, the street when we leave it.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, well,
we have a lot of problems in the south end with that.
Yeah, so we'll, in most cases, yes, in most cases, like on Durham, we're doing the water main prior to the sewer. So we'll mill and overlay the entire road. I mean, in most cases, we're milling and overlaying the entire road. We have, as we have done in the past, everything that we got Deep to agree to, it's constantly, we're learning. We're constantly learning. And we'll, from time to time, there might be something that we've learned and we want to do something additional, and we'll ask, we'll bring that back to the board. But we will be milling and overlaying the majority of those streets.
Further questions? If not, thank you very much for your presentation this evening. And we agree.
What?
answering most everybody's question. Okay, item number 9, report from District Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris Stone, District Council. Just a few updates. As you know, from the last meeting, the DPH approved our abandonment permit for the Colebrook Reservoir, our storage area within the Colebrook Reservoir. We are now working towards two things. One is an application to DPH for approval of the conservation easement that we entered into an agreement with Safe and Sound in the Northwest Land Coalition for some 5,000 plus or minus acres to put in a land conservation chip. Consideration for that is $1 million, and we're working on negotiating the terms of that easement. So that's in process. Hopefully we'll get that completed before the end of the year. Landfill cases are pending. Two with the State Claims Commissioner. One, the oldest one, is now in Superior Court. There were motions to dismiss filed by the state, not the whole complaint, but certain counts of the complaint that's in Superior Court. We objected to those motions. This goes back to June of 2023. July. The judge has 120 days in which to rule, so that date is fast upon us, and I'll be hopefully be able to report at the November meeting the results of those motions. They're just a motion by the state to strike 2 counts on a claim that because the notice to the State Claims Commissioner and their allowing us to sue did not specifically contain those counts, that we were precluded from bringing those up at the Superior Court level. They're wrong. We've filed briefs indicating that they're wrong. They're still pursuing it. I'm optimistic that we'll be successful. Even if we're not, we still have the underlying claim, which is we provided a service to the state of Connecticut and didn't pay for it. So, but that's the update on that. On the tunnel, we have our mediation. I'll call this mediation week. We met today with Scott and our attorneys on our presentation. We've been meeting for 6 to 8 weeks now since it's been scheduled. We have an informal meeting tomorrow with the mediator. Both sides have an opportunity to share their case with the mediator, independent of the other side being present. Their session was last week. That's KOJV. Their session was last week. Our session is tomorrow. We begin the actual mediation on Wednesday. We've reserved 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday of this week, for the mediation. We've put a lot of work into it. We will put a lot of work into it for the next few days. That being said, the mediator we have is a very learned mediator. He used to be, all he did was construction law before we went to mediation. He's well respected. Both sides have used him before. Example, he was a mediator in a case with our lawyer, Attorney Corey, on a case that involved 12 defendants, 4 plaintiffs, and a whole myriad of issues. And in a 2-day mediation, was able to resolve every one of those issues to everyone's satisfaction. So we're cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to work similar magic this week. And I'll certainly be able to report, not just that, we won't wait until November. We'll report to you by email after mediation to tell you how it went.
Mediation is if both parties have to agree. There's nothing binding.
Both parties have to agree to mediate. Number one. And number two, both parties have to agree on a resolution. It's not like binding arbitration. So, and that's my report. I don't have any questions.
Question. I'm sorry. Commissioner Bush.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. I don't know how relevant it is, but just for informational purposes. As we participate in the abandonment of the Colebrook Reservoir, will we have any ability to impact or discuss or affect in any way the level of the water in the Farmington River going forward?
We are an active participant in those discussions. They continue. We reached out to through the senator, Seminary, I believe, the senator from that northwest part
part of town, of the state. We've been working with her office to get builders together to have those discussions. We call it regime flow. Others want to call something. But it's basically how do we handle discharge water from the Colebrook River Reservoir to a lot of different constituencies, some of which have competing interests, right? So you've got the fishermen, you've got the recreational people, you've got the riparian rights downstream, you've got the habitat, the viability of the Farmington River itself. So a lot of different interests, but for years, the NDC, through the work of their staff, and President Tim Anthony up in that part of the state, have been able to navigate, so to speak, through that maze of competing interest, and quite successfully, quite frankly. That's going to change because our role is not gone, but diminished. What we have left is the 3.5 billion gallons of water at the bottom of the reservoir, which is a byproduct or a remnant from the building of the reservoir in the first place, where they cut off that supply from the West Branch Reservoir. But the talks are ongoing. They've been, so we've met with, Scott and I met with, and Chris Levesque met with the first select people of each of the towns affected several times on the issue. We hope to have some resolution. The key player in all that is going to be the Army Corps, as they've always been. And sometimes they've been an active player. Most times they've allowed us to, whatever we did, and they would sign off on it. But now they're going to be the ones to make it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Item 10, referral of 2024 budget to the Board of Finance. Recommended action, refer to the Board of Finance. Is there a motion?
Move it.
Been moved and seconded to refer the operating budget for 2024 to the Board of Finance. Is there discussion? If not, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Item 11, Personnel Pension Insurance Committee, consideration and potential action regarding June 10th approval as an official MDC holiday. Commissioner.
Commissioner Taylor, Chairman of PP&I. This matter was discussed at PP&I, and it was thought that since it involved matters with regards to union-labor relationships, that it would be appropriate to refer this matter to the board. There was no objection to the holiday. However, we did not take what I would characterize as an official vote supporting it.
Okay. I guess there was some question over the economic cost of it. I thought it would be much higher, but it's what, $20,000. I guess what makes some sense, though, to get some context to this, to refer it back to the Board of Finance with the budget, because it's going to have to be included in the budget.
Well, let me.
Should have better.
Well, I think at this point it's $20,000, and that if you look at the member towns in the NDC, Hartford, West Hartford, Newmanfield, Rocky Hill, and also the state of Connecticut, basically, that's an official holiday. And if we supported the notion of having June 10th as an official holiday, that would move us to 14 official days. That would bring us in line with West Hartford, Hartford, and let's see, and Weathersfield, yeah. So I think that the cost is de minimis, and I would strongly recommend to this board that we approve it, and then basically, within that context, a discussion be held with the unions as to what their reaction is.
Yeah, if I may. Mr. Chair. Scott Jellison, CEO of Amnesty. So we had brought this to PPNI 4 times this past year during our negotiations with the union, which we just finalized. Obviously, the union is supportive of the holiday. MDC, myself, staff is supportive of the holiday. The question really becomes, is the board supportive of adding the holiday, or is the board supportive of removing in kind a holiday? Obviously, the union is not willing to lose a holiday. They're willing to accept the add of the holiday, but they're not interested in losing the holiday. It was part of our union discussions, but we just didn't have an answer at the time. So I would believe that if the board so chose to add the holiday, they would be very happy to accept that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Manda. If I may, through you, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to ask Jamie if she could answer a little bit. I'm just looking at the spreadsheet that the commissioners were given. And it says that, everything seems to kind of be in line, give or take a day or two comparatively, except for the fact that we offer 10 personal days, and that seems a little bit higher than most of the other municipalities that we have. So I'm just wondering if Jimmy might be able to comment on that a little bit.
Sure. The 10 personal days is actually only for exempt and excluded employees who are above a salary grade 13, and that's because they don't get earned days. So as you'll know, 6 earned days is indicated below that. The unions get earned days, and then the exempt and excluded employees below the 13 get it. So it's not, this list of NBC time off is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all. A lot of this is driven on which union are you a part of, and then are you exempt and excluded and above a certain grade or below. So there is some variability within this. Like the union does not get inclement weather days, for example. So again, this was kind of simply a breakdown of these are the time off periods that district employees may get, but it's not, no one group gets every single one of these benefits.
And then if I could, just one more, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Manda, thank you very much. During my time with the state, I couldn't touch stuff like this without going through union negotiation. This was just, you don't touch anything. And it's all a negotiable deal. So while I'm in favor of the holiday, I really think that this has to be within the union negotiated process. I just think it's cleaner that way. I'm not picking on this holiday. I just think that anything that we do in this way has to go through the negotiated process, because we don't know what else to come down the pike that we're asked to be able to do and consider on this level. So I really think we need to push it back and put it into the union contract negotiations.
I can speak to that a little bit. To Scott's earlier point, we have talked about this at length with the unions during the negotiation process recently, and we just didn't get anywhere on it because they weren't willing to give something up. It is something, I have very regular meetings with all 3 of the unions. All 3 of them have brought this up to me since we've negotiated, said, hey, any update on Juneteenth? So I have actually talked extensively with all of them, let them know I'm bringing it to PPNI, I'm bringing it to the board. They are fine. If the board decides, hey, we're going to grant this outside of the negotiations, they are fine. The issue is going to come into play is if the board decides that we're not just going to give a day, you want something for it. At that point, 100%, we do have to take that back to negotiations. But they will all gladly accept the additional day if that's what the board chose.
Commissioner Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For purposes of further discussion, I would move that we approve adding Juneteenth to the holiday schedule contingent on the union approving and agreeing with that.
Second.
Is that a motion that you made?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
That's discussion. We finished discussion.
Or is it? Well, we still have to, so we have to pass a motion.
Right.
Or not pass a motion.
I understand.
So it's in order. Discussion.
I just think that all the discussion we've had about union participation is correct. And it needs to be put back on the table for their discussion, consideration, and a vote. All I'm doing is getting it out there to save coming back around full circle again by suggesting and making a motion that we approve a contingent on that. So when Jamie goes back and assuming that it will be approved by the union, it doesn't have to come back to us again.
Well, it would come back to you in the
Well, yeah.
The main motion, I mean, the budget, if it would. Commissioner Drake.
Commissioner Drake, isn't 14 days at some point? I have no problem with the holiday, but the rest of the world doesn't get 14 days. I understand the state and towns do, but 14 days, most times people get 6 or 7 or 8 days. And I would suggest, why don't we give them the 14 days and let them pick 12 or 13? You give a list of 14 days. Say, these are the 14 days you could take. You got to take 12. Anyone, then we stay with the days we have. It gives them flexibility to take that particular day. I'm just saying, the ratepayers in my town, other than the people who work for the state, are not getting those many days. This isn't fair. At some point, 14 is a lot. That's 3 weeks of vacation days. On top of vacation, nobody, people don't get that. And the state guys get it, but that's not normal people. I mean, people get 6, 7, or 8 holidays, and now we're going to go on them. Again, I don't want to take anything away, but just give an option to pick up that day or something else, and I think that'd be fine. I mean, that makes sense to me, not cheating anybody. So, say here's a list of 14, you got to take 13 or whatever we're at right now. To me, that will work.
Thank you for your
Thanks.
Commissioner Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just point out that the town of Weathersfield has 14 days, and it does not include Juneteenth. So,
I think also at the town could allow you to take 12 of those. 8 days. So I'm just saying, and I don't care what the town does. I just say at some point, 14's enough. But next year we'll go 15. I don't know. I have nothing wrong with holiday, but
Commissioner Bush, and then
Yeah, I just have a question. How does an extra holiday impact the just day-to-day operations of the embassy?
okay, we will yield the floor to the Chief Executive Officer.
As we've said, we're supportive of the holiday. As Jamie mentioned, we've talked about this with the unions. They're more than willing to accept the holiday. They're not willing to give anything up. So I just want to clarify to Commissioner Curry that you're suggesting that we add the holiday, is what you're suggesting, and not request anything in return. Is that your?
I'm not suggesting or implying how you should do your work in terms of negotiation with the bargaining unit. My motion was that it goes back to the bargaining unit for consideration.
Yeah.
What you put on the table as part of that consideration, I would leave up to you and district council. I only want not to have to chase our tail again, and everybody can come to an agreement. It doesn't have to go back through this board in some motion.
And I'm happy with that. I would just offer that we have spent almost 2 years negotiating with the unions, and we had, as you know, changes in union leadership twice in 2 different unions during the negotiations, and we just literally had new leadership in 2 of the other unions. So I mean, we can do whatever the board would request, but I just think that we're wasting a lot of staff time to try and negotiate something that they've already said. The union was very clear, we're not giving up any holiday for another holiday. To the point Commissioner Drake, I agree with you in some sense, but it would be a nightmare for, it's one thing if, you know, if you have an individual that decides to take these 13 versus those 13. But when you have the way in which the MDC operates, which is, you know, the crews, you need 6 people on a crew, and when people are taking different days, all of a sudden you wind up with, you know, really trying to herd cats, right? So it's a challenge. Here's what I would offer. I would offer you this, is that I think in the spirit of $20,000, I think I would recommend that you approve the holiday in addition to, and then the next union negotiation, we can revisit it. But I don't think we're going to be successful, and I think it's going to be an awful lot of work in meetings with staff and unions to try to negotiate one holiday based on what we've already seen and heard from them. I think it's $20,000. It's not a lot of money. It sends a message. The MDC is considerate of the holiday, and I think that's what we should do. But again, it's up to you. We just want to know what the rules are when we get started here.
Okay, that's going to be contrary to the resolution.
Go ahead, Commissioner Torres. Commissioner Torres. This is another, I think, example of the initial process. And it's getting us into trouble because the process is off. The negotiations have taken place, contracts have been signed, holidays have been established. So it really is a matter of whether or not this group of people here decides, yeah, we'll leave the $20,000, we'll buy the holiday, then maybe down the road, there could be some negotiations in terms of, you know, whether or not there's some PTO that can be swapped for this or some other thing. But I think that, you know, we've already got the cart in front of the horse here, and it's a little bit difficult to, you know, to try to correct something which we really can't contractually at this point. My experience with unions, it ain't gonna fly. You're not gonna get anything back. The contract is signed, you know, and you don't give things back unless you get something else in return, right? So it's a strategic thing. Getting back to the real meaning of what we're trying to do here, okay? And I know that, you know, there are some monetary considerations within the scope of things. The $20,000 doesn't seem to me to be that much of an issue. The issue of operations is not impacted in a way that would create problems for the agency. But it also, I think, is an important message that the MDC sends to its communities. We are a thoughtful people. We care about our customers. We care about our clients. This recognizes also among our own staff, those people that are personally impacted by this day of enlightenment, if you will, that we care enough to say, you know what, a great wrong was done for 100 years. And we want to celebrate the fact that this is all over, and we, as an organization, are committed to things like diversity, recognizing all our people, and that this particular day is a day that, irrespective of whether or not we negotiated with the union, we feel it's the right thing to do. And if there is no substantial impact, negative impact to the organization, then I think in the big picture, it's a good thing to do. However, you know, getting back to the issue of process, you know, this should not happen again. None of these things that have financial impact or have a contractual issue to it should be discussed here, you know, as opposed to being negotiated at the table with the unions. So I'm very
displeased with the fact that it's after the fact. I wish it would have done before. But having said that, I think we should go forward with this for the reason that I've just outlined.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chair, can you just explain again what we're voting? I just want to make sure I'm voting right. Commissioner Curry's resolution.
The resolution is to approve the date, the holiday, included in the budget. It's a $20,000 allocation that will appear in the budget.
Do you want me to, that's not
Motion.
This motion, I have it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Curry.
I'm sorry, it's going to go back to the union.
The proposed motion to add Juneteenth to the holiday schedule contingent upon approval by the unions.
That's correct. We still have that part of the process that
So that will be part of
talked about.
So
So
we're happy to do that.
we can't unilaterally just approve a holiday, even if the union wants it, without their participation.
We're happy to do that.
Okay, so we will approve that. It will then go back with the budget until and we won't take action in the budget until the union approves it.
Well, we'll figure out how to cover $20,000. I know. We'll figure it out.
I almost had it figured out.
But yes, we're happy to do that, and we will bring it to the as Commissioner Curry requested. We'll get all three unions. Obviously, the E&Es do not vote, and they don't have unfortunately, the E&Es. We typically give the E&Es whatever we give the unions, and that's why the
unions say no.
But we will. I'm sure that they'll say yes, but we will to follow that process. As Commissioner Curry outlined, we will do that.
And Mr. Chair.
Does everybody understand what we're doing now? Yes. Anybody want?
I just one next.
Commissioner Mandyke, then
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr. Chair. I just want to reiterate, we as a board are now involving ourselves in union contract negotiation by approving something like this. I just wanted to make it clear that we're stepping a line right now by approving this in our process. We have a process that was extremely well done this last time, where I think both the MDC and our employees, our unionized employees, went to the table and had a fantastic negotiation, cordial, and I was so impressed with the work that was done. I think we're stepping over our bounds, and we have to look at where does this stop? Where do we as a board stop with influencing what has already been negotiated with our unions? Because this is just the first step of us potentially, as a board, negotiating the union contracts. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman? Hold on. Commissioner Taylor? Commissioner Aberdeen.
First of all, I find this all rather interesting because the whole purpose or the reason behind PPNI referring this back to the board was that we viewed this basically as a matter that fell within the purview of labor management relationships. And consequently, it was appropriate to send it back to the board. Secondly, I respectfully remind my fellow commissioner, that at one time, MDC commissioners were participants in the labor union negotiations. And if you do not believe that,
They were completely they were negotiated contract by the staff. It changed about 23 or 4 years ago, 25 years. Further discussion? Commissioners, I'm sorry, Aberdeen.
I guess history is history, and we're now 2003. And the negotiation is with Chief Executive Officer, if you will, and his team. So what we're doing here, I don't know about crossing the line. I think what we're saying here, and what we're saying is that, yes, Scott agrees that they should have it, but I'm assuming we're giving you with this if we prove this, because without this, I'm going to say no, that it's in your bag of tricks. And you're going to use that, you're going to try to get something for that day. No, you're just not going to give it to them?
If I may, if I may, I promise you, I and my staff will spend more than $20,000 trying to negotiate this. We've already been there, done that. We spent 2 years negotiating. This was on our items for all of the unions. Like I said, it is timing is. I appreciate Commissioner Mandice's points, but it is a timing issue. And the reality is that we will spend more money. I mean, most of our meetings with the unions, we're talking about 4 hours or more every time we meet, and so we will easily spend $20,000 trying to negotiate something. My recommendation is we, as Mr. Torres says, we recognize the importance of this holiday. It would have been nice to have it in the union negotiations, but we couldn't get there with the unions. It wasn't going to go anywhere in terms of negotiating something for it. And the recommendation from PPI, bring it to the full board, and our recommendation from staff is we give this day to the employees, and then in the next union contract we will talk about that and negotiate something. But it's not worth the time and energy to try and negotiate something for it, because we're not going to get anywhere.
Thank you. Commissioner.
Yeah, I was supporting the original recommendation.
I don't think we need to set it back. I mean, it's an exercise in what? To send it to them back, I think it's a wrong thing to do. I think that it's a decision that we make as commissioners, whether or not we believe this is a good thing to do, it's a good holiday, it's important to do, and then down the road, we have to, as we do our negotiations, the mailman appear again, maybe here for the long term, something else may change. But I don't see why we need to send it back to the unions it seems like it's also a renegotiation of sorts, which is not. I think it's a decision the board makes. We make a decision. Do we think this is important? Do we think it's worth $20,000? Do we want to waste administration's time and going back to the unions and doing stuff which is, an exercise in what? I think we should just approve it and go and move forward. I don't see a need to do this, sending it back to the unions to get their approval. That seems to me like to be a contractual negotiating, the contract all over again. That's what it seems like to me.
Mr. Counsel. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Stone, District Counsel. And as strange as it may sound, that taking this back to the unions, a benefit, unilateral benefit to the unions is an exercise of futility. We have to recognize that our relationship with these three unions is a collective bargaining relationship. And notwithstanding the fact that it's a benefit and not a burden, and that we're not asking for any burden to accompany the benefit to the union membership, I think formalizing, it's not going to be a long process to formalize where they already are, and that is in a written sign-off on this change. Let the process take place. It's not going to take long. It's not going to be a negotiation back and forth, but it reserves the collective bargaining nature of our relationship with those groups. So my recommendation is, notwithstanding how it's counterintuitive, right? Why would they object to a benefit? It's part of the process, and not a long process.
Further discussion before we have further discussion.
Mr. Chairman? Yep. Hello?
Commissioner Salerni.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, I should have said my name. I just want to say that I appreciate Commissioner Torres' comments, and I agree with him. It sounds like what we're saying is if we believe this is the right thing to do, then we should do it. So thank you, Commissioner Torres, for that, too.
Is there further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. They're not showing. Well, I'm just saying. No, no's? Just say.
Yeah, if I could confirm, this is John Merrill, I have Commissioners Van Dyke, Evan, Drake, and Payne. There's no accurate. Thank you.
Item 12, Water Bureau consideration and potential action regarding potential purchase of real estate in New Hartford. Is this not ready for?
Just very brief, if I might, Mr. Chair.
District
Chris
Council?
Stone, thank you. Chris Stone, District Council. No action was taken by the Water Bureau, so there's nothing for this board to act upon or the recommendation for you to act upon. It's merely an update. There's 207 acres in New Hartford. That's on the market. 100 or 103, I'm sorry. 103 acres on the market. The town of New Hartford, it's right near our reservoir. We have an interest in it. We've got it had it appraised, or we're finishing up the appraisal, and we're talking to the seller. At such time, if we shouldn't have a draft or proposed agreement, we'll go back to the Water Bureau and ultimately this board to consider it. It's too early.
Commissioner Torres.
Yes, if you look at do we exercise our nonprofit status, or do we have to pay taxes on this property as we do in Hartman?
We pay tax under 12-75 of the statute, 76 of the statute. We pay taxes as if this property were improved farmland, which is a fiction, right? Because it's open space, and we've had arguments with the non-member towns up in the northwest corner about what is the true value of this property. The legislature determined that its value is as if it were improved farmland. That would be the basis for which we pay taxes. It's not exempt. It's not a,
So is that the same thing that we do when we acquire property in West Hartford, for the town
no, only
Hartford?
it only applies to the watershed towns.
Only applies to the watershed towns?
By statute.
Okay. Item 13, opportunity for general public comment.
Mr. Chairman, this is Judy Allen.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I'm sorry. Judy.
Thank you. Judy Allen, West Hartford. I just quickly want to add something to what Scott said about the difficulty in meeting some of the minority and Hartford resident people to do the work in the north part of Hartford. And I'm just wondering, and I'm hopeful that will, that you can be, I'm not making much sense, that the Information Commissioner Taylor has about possibilities within Hartford is going to be useful in helping you to meet those quotas. Thank you.
Further comment from the general public? If not, Commissioners requesting for future agenda items. Commissioner Bush.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. This is Commissioner Bush. At some point, I think there has to be a discussion about the stormwater situation that continues to plague Lynbrook Road. Over the last weekend, when we had the heavy rain, there was 2 small fountains discharging from the sewer, the manholes from the sewer. That sewer, that main line is 23 feet below the surface of the road, and there was 2, at least, I mean, more than 2, just 2 that were directly outside where I live, that were clearly visible. I did not walk around to the 5 or 6 locations. So I'd like to have that continue to be addressed, and I think what needs to be done specifically is that there are approximately, from what I understand, 700 homes that discharge into that one main trunk, and I think that we need to have some outreach to those homes to continue the removal with the backwater valves and the sump pumps. I've done 3 of those, and I've had them done. They work extremely well. They remove an enormous amount of water, from the sanitary sewer. It's just nonstop. Assuming that the homes that have those devices installed have the appropriate place to discharge. I'm bringing a few different things into this statement, but the backwater valve program is a very successful program. It works very well to remove stormwater from the sanitary sewer, as long as that water is being discharged into a safe location, because it could create additional burdens to neighbors and other things. But I would like to make sure that stays on the agenda and is discussed. North of Hartford is not the only place that has flooding when it's heavy rain. My neighbors, I went to all of my neighbors, and I have many wet basements and many discharges back into it. So I
remember, you don't automatically store sewer.
Oh, no, I get it. No, but I get it. And also, just to follow up with that, one of my entire existence on this board is due to the failures of the West Hartford storm sewer. I'm a huge advocate that West Hartford needs to step up and do their job to protect basements and the Trout Brook from sewage discharging into basements and rivers and streets. So that's kind of who I am here. So I totally agree with that.
Just for a question of Scott, because before we get into the adjournment, I see now that the United States Congress is seriously considering flooding as an option. That they're talking about adding $40 or $50 billion to the existing legislation that they're passing now, and understand that stormwater is the problem, and maybe they'll come back to where they were in 1977 when they allowed us to receive federal support based on the same formula that the highway funding is done. 80% federal, 20% local. In 1977, the federal government got out of the stormwater or sewer business and has not subsidized in the same way. If they move in that direction, it'll be a major benefit for where we are, because we need millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to deal with that in our own legislation. So that's a positive, hopefully a positive issue to start something to deal with the national infrastructure problem. You don't see sewer pipes. You do see highways. As a result, their attitude was in 1977, don't worry about it, everything's going well. And it's 50 years later, and it's not going well. The environment's going the other way. So, thank you. And those are problems that we're going to have to address. West Hartford with, Newington with, Weathersfield with, because much of that is causing the problem in North Hartford and South Hartford. Okay, without any further discussion, the appropriate motion is in place. Without objection, is adjourned.